This is about making Washington work regardless of who's in the White House or who controls the Senate.
You'll regret this, and you may regret it a lot sooner than you think.
This war has escalated. This war on both sides.
My friends, we are approaching a slippery slope that will destroy the very unique aspect of this institution called the United States Senate.
Big change in the Senate this week. No more filibusters for presidential appointees or lower court judges. Let's debate that now here on the roundtable. Bill Kristol is back, along with our ABC team, Cokie Roberts, Donna Brazile, Matthew Dowd. And Donna, let me begin with you. You heard Senator Reid. It was a pretty big move from Senator Reid this week. They call it the nuclear option in the Senate because it's such a massive change in Senate rules. You heard Senator McCain right there, going to change the way the Senate works, shouldn't be done.
Well, I disagree, of course, with Senator McCain. But, you know, with all of the conversation this morning about the nuclear deal with Iran, this is a melodramatic phrase to talk about the nuclear option being eliminated. The truth of the matter is, George, is that the Senate Democrats have gone back and forth with Republicans for the last 2 years to try to come up with an agreement that was consistent to continue to allow the administration appointees, their executive appointees and their judicial appointees to get through, not the Supreme Court. And, you know, they just couldn't keep this deal. So Senator Reid, at the urging of his caucus, decided this was time to go ahead and to have a deal where simple majority rule. So the president will be able to get his nominees through, and the Senate will be able to function.
The Senate can't function. The Senate's not functioning. I mean, and I thought it was quite remarkable for Harry Reid to say the Senate's not functioning. He's the majority leader. Doesn't he have some responsibility for the Senate not functioning?
Well, he doesn't have the votes.
But now what we've got is they've tried right after this to bring up the defense bill. They can't bring up the defense bill. It's not functioning. Any member of the Senate can put a hold on any nominee. I mean, it's not, all it's going to do is make everybody madder and make it worse rather than easier.
To me, this isn't the problem. This is a symptom of the problem. The problem is obviously complete dysfunction in Washington, D.C. And I mean, there's a virus going around in Washington, D.C., and it's a virus of hypocrisy. Harry Reid was against this before he was for it. Mitch McConnell was for it before he was against it. President Obama was against it before he was for it. In the end, what's happened is what's happened in the country writ large. I was looking at the data the other day. 80 senators 25 years ago were from swing states. 25 years ago, 80 senators, 20 are from swing states today. The problem in Washington, D.C. is you cannot have the same rules today as you did before. You can't have the same rules in chess that you now have in mixed martial arts. And that's the situation we're in.
So it's reflecting the situation we have in the country. But Bill Kristol, I wonder if it's going to intensify the kind of polarization we've already seen, make the Senate a little bit more like the House, where majority rules, and essentially start to move us towards parliamentary government. Whenever a party is in charge, they're going to get their way.
Yeah, no, I think so. And I mean, I think we're being too nice here, plague on all houses. Harry Reid agreed with Mitch McConnell that this would not happen in this session. They actually negotiated something at the beginning of the session. So he's simply breaking his word because Republicans were not confirming every appellate court judge as quickly as the administration liked, and were holding up some executive branch appointees longer than the administration liked.
A lot of executive branch appointees.
Yeah, 168 filibusters in the history of the country.
No, but a lot of those filibusters...
82 under President Obama.
A lot of those filibusters were because Harry Reid, in fact, introduced the bill, filled the tree, as they say, with amendments, and then invoked cloture, and then it's called a, quote, filibuster. The fact is Harry Reid has been... I mean, Mitch, look, there's some blame on all sides, but Reid's behavior as majority leader has been pretty amazing. The House routinely passes legislation that the Senate simply doesn't take up. They don't, it's fine, bring it to the floor. If they want to filibuster, filibuster. If the Democrats have the votes to beat it, beat it. But they don't even take up stuff that the House passes.
But there are more than 200 nominations sitting there not confirmed. And that is, you know, that is dysfunctional, certainly. But Matt's point is the real point, is that the Senate's just reflecting what's going on in the country. And so you have... In the 1990s, as recently as the 1990s, more than a third of the Senate voted in the middle. And now you don't have one member of the Senate whose voting record is somewhere between the most conservative Democrat and the most liberal Republican.
And George, when you look at this, I know a lot of people are reflecting back on what the Founding Fathers and what they say, this boy, is this going to be the worst thing since Thomas Jefferson and all that. We also must keep in mind that the Founding Fathers warned against day in and day out, including President Washington, about the power of political parties and the power of parties to tear apart the government and create this dysfunction. We are at a point now where the political parties and people line up in these tribes, and it's very difficult. if you, as I say, you can't have the same rules in chess when you're, I'm going to be fine and all that, as you have in mixed martial arts, which is where the situation is today in Washington.
The question is, what does that mean for the rest of President Obama's second term? We had a new ABC News poll come out this week that shows he's continuing to drop on the heels of this trouble with Obamacare. The president's job approval rating now 42%. That's marking the low of his time in our ABC Washington Post poll. For the first time, less than a majority of Americans see him as honest and trustworthy, and now a full 70% of the country says we are on the wrong track. I mean, I think, Donna, there was some hope. You were expressing, this is going to break the gridlock, but this is likely to poison the well on everything else the president wants to do, especially when his poll numbers are that low. Right.
So what are we going to go back to? Hyperpartisanship on steroids? The fact of the matter is that Congress was already mad as hell. They were not interested in getting a lot done. I think the president is going to have to continue to push them on immigration, push him on the Farm Bill, and of course, with all of the budget agreements coming to a deadline pretty soon, he's going to have to continue to see if he can bring some of the middle together. The truth is that Washington, D.C. is dysfunctional. The Republicans enjoy gridlock because they really, and we saw this week, they have no other agenda.
But Cokie,
the Republicans passed legislation to let people keep their health care if they like it, which, as I recall, is something the president vaguely said people should be able to do. It's not been brought to the House, to the floor of the Senate. The Republicans aren't responsible for gridlock in this situation.
They're not responsible for gridlock.
No,
Bill,
the House has passed. The House of Representatives has passed quite a lot of legislation. This was passed with 39 Democratic votes. 39 Democratic votes.
John Boehner will not allow the Democrats to have a vote. He wants to have to rule.
Where we are today, George, where we are today, though,
responsible for gridlock.
The president in 2008 and 2007 ran on the idea that he was going to bring the country together, bring Washington together. We're going to get past the partisan gridlock. We're going to get past the vitriol. And now we're at a point where the rules have to change in the Senate because it's become so polarized, so vitriolic, we can't get it done. And the president's job approval numbers are not coming back. I've seen this movie before. Well,
you didn't watch in September 2011 and in October 2011 when many of you, I don't know if you said it directly, said that the president couldn't come back because his numbers had dropped. The president will come back because some of the people who've left him, who've abandoned him, are the people who voted for him.
I think much more likely to happen is the Republicans sink father as well, so that both sides just keep the public is furious with both sides. I mean, the average of all the polls, congressional approval is at 8.5. But
if both sides sink, the likelihood is the status quo is remains.
All I'd say is that actually talking to a fair number of Republican candidates out in the House and the Senate, the Republican Congress, Republican House isn't that popular. If you ask, is Congress popular? No, it's not. If you're an actual Republican candidate running in a competitive House seat or a competitive Senate race, you feel pretty good now.
Honestly, House likely to.
Republicans are going to hold the House,
and
if you go around the country, people are concerned
what's happened is in a couple of Republican primaries, very interesting things in both Alabama and Louisiana, where the business community came in and basically said, we don't want all these crazy people in the House of Representatives, and managed to nominate people who were
Republican candidate in Louisiana ran to expand Medicaid bill.
We only have a couple minutes left. I don't want to let this moment pass without looking back at these events this week on the 50th anniversary of the assassination of JFK. And Matthew, I have to say, I was actually surprised at how much this resonated across the country 50 years later.
Well, I think it's, for first being an Irish Catholic American, it's a moment in time that all of us, and we still have the pictures of John F. Kennedy are still in bars throughout everywhere we go. I think it's because it was a moment in time when there was all this hope in this, and it was at one moment for many people in this country, many Irish Catholics, but many people, including the Kennedy family, there was a complete loss of innocence. If you trace back sort of people's perceptions of where they wanted to go and what hope they had, you almost can trace it back to that day 50 years ago.
And Cokie, this hit home personally for you and your family. Of course, your father, the Democratic leader in the House, when John Kennedy was serving. And I think we have a picture of your family actually in the Oval Office just weeks before.
Yes, both of my grandmothers happened to be in town at the same time. So that's my parents and my two grandmothers with Jack Kennedy on November 1st, 1963. And he was a dear to them. He was very charming, and he said, "Where are the photographers? They're usually all over the place. I can't find a photographer." And then he found one to come in and take that lovely picture. But it was Matt is quite right. It was the time of such hope and such possibility. The economy was booming. We had never lost a war. It was just, and the young people were being called to serve, and then it just all sort of went dark.
And not surprisingly, Bill Kristol, 50 years later, also sparked something of a political debate as we see that iconic picture of John Kennedy Jr. Was John F. Kennedy basically a conservative or a liberal?
Well, he was certainly an anti-communist and a hawk and believed in a strong defense. And the speech he was going to give in Dallas on November 22nd was calling for tax cuts across the board to give people incentives to get the economy moving again. So in those two respects, I think he would have been a little more comfortable, perhaps, in the Republican Party of today than in the Democratic Party.
Still a Democratic icon.
You know, another Catholic family with John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King, of course. In our household, we have Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. But he inspired a generation to change the country. He inspired people to tear down the walls of discrimination. And Lyndon Johnson implemented much of his vision, but he was such an inspirational figure.
It's interesting. This is a moment when you don't know where the myth begins and reality begins. It's sort of myth and reality got so mixed up in so many people's minds that they're still sorting out what was myth and what was reality.
And likely to go on for a long time. Thank you all very much.